I think even if it is a net revenue negative, which I don't think it will be, these things, I think just being able to put your head on the pillow at night and sleep soundly is a net positive for me. If you have not already seen it yet, we just put up a video on YouTube on Micah making live cold calls. You guys asked for it and have been asking for it for 2 years. So here it is. We finally figured out the legality behind it and what we can and can't record and what we do and don't have to bleep out. So it is up on YouTube, is one of our most recent videos. And we're going to try to do a couple of these so you can actually see the Zen Master himself in action. And I was watching it actually earlier before we hopped on this call. I think the coolest thing about it is that it's one thing to read a script, but it's another thing to see it in the wild. And I think I'm pretty good on the phone. And then when I watch the video, I'm not saying it confirms or doesn't confirm that I'm good on the phone. It's just, it's kind of like, things get lost in context, in text, Twitter or reading or whatever. But when you get to actually see somebody do it, I'm like, that inflection there, or, I like how he handled that, the gatekeeper tried to throw up this little, guard, and I see how he went around that. You get a lot more when you actually see it in action than just reading it in a newsletter or something. So kudos there. If you are listening to this, go check those out. Well, let's actually get into the meat and potatoes of this episode. I'm not sure exactly what we're going to call it. I haven't quite figured out the title. But it's basically counterintuitive truths that every producer needs to hear. And we recently put out a video on due diligence. And so we're kind of dovetailing off that. And so before we hit record, we kind of broke it down on the incumbent side and the prospective agent side, depending on which side of the deal that you're on. You're either defending your business or you're attacking business. And we kind of had 3 unconventional truths on both sides that we came up with. And when I say we, I mean you. So let's dive into that. You want to start off on the incumbent side or the prospective agent side?
Let's go on incumbent.
All right, let's start on the incumbent side. What is a unconventional truth? Number one, unconventional truth as the incumbent that producers need to hear and implement.
Send your loss history as fast as possible back to the client.
But only if Micah's working the account.
Yeah, no. It's, I get requests for loss history from clients occasionally. And it's funny because I've had account managers I work with. They're like, hey, they'll email me hey, should I send this? Or I just wanted to run this by you. I was like, yep, send it immediately. We're not here to play games. And in my opinion, the account manager the client, it's their information. Right. So they have the right to that information anyways. And it's just about doing the right thing. And I think, yes, it might come back to burn you with all these unconventional things. Some of them might come back to burn you, but I think if you're playing the long game and looking at the big picture, it's going to work in your favor. Your clients, you're going to just build that trust more and more with your clients. And so, so when you get that loss history request, send it as fast as possible and have your team send it, as fast as possible. It's always good to be notified. Hey, I'd like to be aware if a client asks for it, but it doesn't mean I delay sending it.
Do you call the client and ask, hey, what the F?
Very rarely. It might just be hey, I saw you ask for loss history. We're sending it immediately. And I just wanted to, if you're quoting, no worries at all, but could we just have a conversation, about kind of the marketing strategy for this upcoming year? We're 120 days out. It's kind of early. This is just, I was about to reach out to you here this month, right? And kind of get the process rolling anyways. So you might want to throw that in there. If you get it 3-4 months into the policy period, I really don't. I mean, it's just kind of, to me, it's kind of silly. Hey, I saw you order loss history. Just thought I'd reach out, say hi, but I might send it to them directly. So you could have what you could do is say, hey, account manager, send it to me. And then you flip it to them immediately. So they know it's coming from you. Hey, Dave, I saw you requested this. Here you go. So they know that, right? But you don't have to say anything, and again, this comes back to, are you doing a good job? Are you exploring the markets you're supposed to be exploring? Do you have a good relationship with the client? If you bring on the right type of client in the first place, yes, some will burn you, but most will not, or they'll at least be reasonable. Hey man, I got a quote midterm. It's kind of coming in here. Can you at least look through this and explain what the difference might be? And, at the end of the day, if they do that and some other agent comes in with a way better program, again, this all comes back to the unconventional agent. I think it doesn't, this might be a little spiritual here, but not even spiritual. Everything you do is motivated by fear or out of love, right? It sounds cheesy, but if you're going to act out of fear, you're going to withhold their information. You're going to try to, control that client. If what you're doing is ultimately trying to help them and you want the best for your clients, a lot of people say that, but I think very little or few of us actually mean it. But if you actually want what's best for your client and genuinely mean that, you're acting out of love, right? And so it's like that should motivate your actions and how you act with your clients. And I think they'll just see that. In my opinion, I think it'll come back around and pay off dividends if you do the right thing.
Or maybe if you don't like the fear and love thing, maybe scarcity and abundance.
Sure. Yeah. Whatever your cup of tea is.
All right. Let's go incumbent, unconventional truth number 2.
Do not block the markets. It's just, so let's just say and some agencies have this standard procedure in place. 120 days out, they want to send all the markets are sent to kind of a quasi submission. And to me, I don't know, it's just not good for the client. It's also destroying your relationship with the agents, the underwriters. But again, it comes back to, is that really beneficial to the client? I don't think so. Because now underwriters, whatever you do, you're acting on their behalf, and they just associate, hey, this client shops every year, So don't block the market. Even if you're the incumbent, you quote strategically. Now, again, people, if you're acting out of fear, well, they might be talking with another agent, so we got to do this. No, I mean, if you're acting out of love or abundance, let's have a conversation with the client. We're 120 days out. That's what you should be doing anyways, right? A renewal strategy meeting. And that's where you talk through and you say, hey, renewal's coming up. I want to talk with you about what the market's doing, what our plan is, so make sure we're on the same page. Great. You set the meeting and you go through those things. And then you say, hey, this is the plan. Here's what we'd like to do. Sometimes I've brought up competition at that renewal strategy meeting in terms of other agents, and sometimes I don't. If I do bring it up, it might be like, hey, I know there's a ton of agents calling you, right? And that's not lost on me. And so I appreciate your business. I appreciate you working with us on this upcoming renewal. If for whatever reason, you decide you want to talk with another agent or have them go look around, just remember how the game kind of works. There's probably only 5 or 6 markets. We have access to pretty much every market, but if someone comes in here and tells you that there's a market that they have that they think will be really great, can you just run it by me? I'll be straight with you. I'll let you know if we have that or if we don't have it, and if we've never gone there, then shame on me. But if they're, and if I don't have it, by all means, talk with someone else. See what other options are out there if there's a carrier I don't have. So I don't mind having that conversation. I have done that and have brought that up proactively to clients, but I don't bring it up every pre-renewal strategy meetings. It just depends on kind of what I'm feeling at that time or if I think I need to.
I don't have any follow-ups there. What about number 3? What do you have for the third incumbent, unconventional truth?
Yes. Don't gaslight a client or tell them. And so what I mean by this is don't make them feel stupid for talking with another agent. You hear this from like prospects are like, I heard if I quote, that's bad for my business. And it's like, well, that's kind of true. Quoting every year mindlessly, yes, that's probably not good. But if you quote strategically and you're going to different markets and there's a lot of nuance, right? And so if your client is asking you about like, hey, I got some other agents calling me, again, just be honest with them. Be like, hey man, this is how it works. I have these markets. That's where we would go to. If someone else has a market I don't have, by all means, talk to them. And also, if you want to have someone review my program, I'm not ashamed of our work. Send them my policies. Have them review what we've done or where we're at. If they think they have something better, all I ask is just, and I don't blame you for doing that. You should do some due diligence. You should kind of have conversations occasionally every couple of years. I would if I owned a business, right? But again, just don't make a hasty decision and just give me a chance to either defend myself if they point something out or at least, give you my thoughts. And that's it,
When they come back to you with some question, like I heard quoting's bad or, something along those lines, how much of that do you think is the other agent intentionally pouring BS in their ear? And how much of it do you think is just the agent not understanding how the game works and like them trying to connect the dots on their own?
I think at least, because this is funny. When I was at Federated, I heard this all the time. And I was like, dude, we're a direct writer. It's not bad for you to quote with a direct writer. And that's where these people that are like hardcore BOR only, right?
Ooh, you mean like you used to be?
I was never dogmatic. I didn't really care what people did. I just believed it was the best way. And I still believe it is the best way. But to say that quoting doesn't make sense at all for clients ever, there's a little nuance, right? Again, this comes down to the market access. And where I'm getting to is, as an agent, if you're telling your clients that quoting's just bad, quoting 2 years in a row is bad for you, so you want to give it like 3-4 years. Yeah, if you're going to the same exact markets every year, maybe. But if you're going to a different market you've never gone to, totally a moot point.
Side question here. Have you ever thought about, the agency where we came from, or, just other situations, other agencies? Have you ever thought about why they advocate for that? Like, what is the reasoning behind it? And also the other funny thing is like different offices and locations in different agencies operate differently, right? So you might have a Aon office in who knows, and they're like BOR only. And then the one in New England might be like, we don't care. Or the hub here locally in Gulf South, I know that they're like BOR, quote, whatever. We don't really care. We just go win business. Meanwhile, I know there's another hub up in the central Appalachian, up in that, I won't name it specifically. They're like BOR only. So have you ever thought about that? Is it just a dogmatic thing by office, or is there a particular advantage or reason why they're more? What is it, that they use less resources, or like they truly think that's the best way to win? What do you think that's all about?
Good question. I think some is I don't think ignorance is the right word, but some is like environment. Like, hey, if you were brought up in a quoting only, that might be all you know. Or if you were brought up in a BOR only, like some younger producers now that are out there, that's all they know. And so they hear someone, hey, this guy just won 300 grand last year on quoting. What? And their world's shocked because they thought quoting was ancient. They thought it was out of style. But people are out there still crushing it that way. Or on the flip side, the guy who's only won by quoting, here's a story about some guy AORing everything, having an 85, 90% closing ratio, whatever. And he's like, what? And so, yeah, it's tough to say like why, but I think that is probably the biggest reason. Is just like who taught you, and that's what you get to know. Maybe there's some regional things, maybe there's some industry things. But again, like I've said before, when I was at my former agency in Houston, that we bought a construction only shop, and they thought AOR only, no construction contractor is going to AOR anything. Meanwhile, us younger guys were out there AOR and contractors, and they thought that was impossible because you had to bid because they had to bid, right? So a lot of times we create these barriers in our own minds, and like we're our own biggest enemy, and that's where I got to this point of like, why do we have to pick? Just let's stay in the middle path. The ultimate goal is win the business. Every case is going to be different. There's going to be some prospects that can't get their head around AORing. Okay, we'll work with them, meet them where they're at, which we've talked about in other episodes, or, whatever the case may be. So it's like, just look at each scenario and be strategic, be mindful about every scenario, and don't close off one door or the other. Just be open to either or. It's not that like, now that I think about it, I'm like, why would you be closed off to either or? Like, just doesn't make sense. Me saying that doesn't mean I still don't think quoting makes no sense most of the time with multiple agents, right? As a business owner, I still agree 100% that quoting doesn't make sense 90% of the time, but that's not everyone's where I'm at, right? Not everyone understands what I understand, what we understand as agents and behind the scenes. And some people just can't understand that, right? And so, and of course there's other exceptions, but yeah, so I still believe in it. And so that's still, I'll still share that with clients. I'll still share it. Hey, I don't think you need a quote. I don't think it's necessary, but if you want to, yeah, there's ways to do that. If you can't come to my side of seeing things, here's what that would look like though. And you got to have some kind of barriers that you put up, I just quote everything out there. So, hey, I had one other thing. I know this ruins things, but I had a fourth thing. If you're the incumbent to do that's unconventional. And that is present your renewal quote as early as possible. And if you have indications on pricing, give the client a heads up as early as possible. Even if it's 2 months out, it's going to be a 30% increase, which is a tough one. That's a tough one. But I hardly believe it's the right thing to do.
I agree.
Now,
I agree.
The risky part of doing it is you're 90 days out. The incumbent comes back and says, Micah, we're increasing the auto 30%. It's going to be up 100 grand this year. Just FYI. We're not getting off the account, but that's what's happening. Okay, great. Thanks for telling me that. You should be grateful to the underwriter. But now what do? Do you tell your client, or do you wait until the last 30 days out? In my opinion, I tell them immediately. It's just what I've done because I don't want to lose sleep over it. And you do take a risk because they're going to be getting other calls after that. Oh, I heard, yeah, we should probably talk with another agent just in case. And so you do risk that. But when you tell your client, the conversation kind of goes like this, like, hey, as you know, we had a renewal strategy meeting. We got some indications from your current carrier. They're going to be up like 30%. So I'm not telling this to scare you. I'm telling this because I believe it's my job to be transparent and to be forthright and tell you information as soon as I know it. But here's how we're planning on, overcoming this. We're obviously going to push back as much as we can. I don't think they're going to budge much, but we have these 4 other markets we've already talked to. I feel good about this one. I feel good about that one. We'll see what the market does, but we are working hard for you. I just want you to know that. And I just don't believe it makes sense for me to withhold this information from you to the last month. And that's it. I mean, that's all you do. I just did this 2 months ago with my biggest client.
Also, we're about to go to the prospective agent side, but I wanted to throw this in real quick. We're talking about like the unconventional truths or whatever, and it's kind of like, what is the reasoning behind all this? And you said earlier, it's the right thing to do. And I guess for me, as I'm thinking about it, and you're talking about telling them that, like, for example, the increase and letting them know early. I'm not going to sit here and say that I think this is always going to work out in your favor every time, because I don't think it will. But I think net long term, it will. And B, it will also just give you more peace of mind. Like, I'm sitting here thinking about for me, that's a huge net positive. So even if it's a net negative on my book long term, just internal peace of mind for me. Like, I don't know if you've ever been this way, but I used to manipulate and maneuver, not necessarily I'm not saying in work, but whether it's relationships or whatever, especially as a teenager and my parents and trying to do things. And dude, it's exhausting to try to keep the plate spinning, So it's what did I tell them on this? Oh yeah, I told Kathy that this is going to be, this renewal is at this, and I told her I was doing this, but I haven't done it yet, and now I got to go back and do this. And I think even if it is a net revenue negative, which I don't think it will be, these things, I think just being able to put your head on the pillow at night and sleep soundly is a net positive for me, because I've got enough chaos in my life. I don't need 1,000 freaking loose ends that I'm trying to keep track of in my brain and where I left the story at last time. I ain't got time for that.
100% agree, man. Peace is priceless for sure.
Let's move on to the prospective agent side. You have the incumbent agent on one side, and then you have the prospective agent. So let's say the agent who's coming in there and knocking on doors and trying to, make a ruckus. What is the first unconventional truth or unconventional piece of advice you have for the prospective agent?
Go slow to the market. And really what I'm saying here is be 100% clear with the prospect about obviously what an AOR does. So, and you could change the words or whatever and make it sound nicer, but at the end of the day, you're firing the agent and replacing with you. So if you want to use different words, I don't care, but you just make sure that the client's 100% clear with what is happening. But then on the quoting side, this is where I see it more of an issue is most agents will come out there. They'll call someone. They'll even tell clients or prospects this. Hey, most agents would sit here, call you, they get your policies, and they put a quick submission together and try to beat your other agent out to the market, right? It's called racing to the market or whatever. They do that because they're acting out of fear, selfishly for them, because they know your agent's probably acting out of fear, selfishly for them, try to block the market, and then who loses? You miss your prospect. So instead of playing that whole game, I'm sitting here today talking to you, being honest about hey, I'd like to go to the market, but here's where I want to go, but I'm not going to go anywhere unless you give me your permission. And these are the 3 places I want to go, and here's why. I just don't want to play games, dude. I don't want to ever tell half truths. I want to just be totally transparent. Like you just said, you'll sleep better. Clients will see this. You'll feel better. They'll feel better, whether you win the account or not. It's a net positive all around.
All right. Number 2, what you got?
Advise like a consultant, not an agent. And
what does that mean?
You made a good point because we were kind of talking pre-show. Give advice like you're getting paid just to give the advice, whether you get the account or not. Getting the account maybe just would be a cherry on top, or I guess would has no incentive. Your first goal is to be objective, to educate, to tell them what their policies look like, what their rates look like, what the market looks like in relation to their account, what efforts have been done, and maybe what ideas you have to help them. But that's it. You're not coming back and saying, again, making mountains out of molehills or pulling some, saying, well, this is this way when, okay, maybe that is, but is it really that big of a deal? And if it's a minor deal, if you want to bring it up, sure, you'd be like, hey, I think this is kind of minor, but to me, it kind of signifies that things have been overlooked. That's fine. I'm not saying you can't do that, but I'm just saying don't sit there and kind of embellish things or make things. Don't make mountains out of molehills. That's really it. And
I was encouraged to do that. I was encouraged to pour gas on the fire, and because not that they don't know the difference, but like I think it's kind of 50-50. You have half the camp where you have like these just technician coverage, just nerds that have seen every possible outcome, and so they truly are they want every exclusion off. They're going to fight and claw for every like inch, and so they see that that exclusion on there, and like they literally are losing sleep over it. And so when they find it, they are going to tell you about it and turn the wrench and ratchet it up to 1,000 to make you think that it's the end of the world, because to them it actually is. And then there's other people who aren't, maybe they're not as big catastrophizers, and they see that exclusion and they are going to turn the wrench anyways, but not necessarily because they think it's a huge deal, but just because they know that you don't know and they want to try to make it look bigger than it is. And so I was encouraged to do that.
And I'm not, so here's the thing, let's be clear. I'm not saying like, if you find a coverage gap or something that of course, most people think will be small. Everyone thinks insurance gaps are small until they have a claim that falls into that specific category and it's not covered, right? So I'm not saying you don't bring it up. I'm just saying the way this is more, how are you bringing things up? But if you genuinely in your heart of hearts feel convicted about a coverage and you're passionate, like this could put you out of business, then say it. If their auto's not scheduled underneath their umbrella and you think that could put that company out of business, say that, right? That's not what I'm saying. But if you find, they got 90% co-insurance instead of 80%, and you're just like, this extra 10%, man. This could knock you back.
Hey, this silica asbestos exclusion, this is a big problem.
Yeah. Let's be clear. We've all been guilty of none of us are
communicable disease. Oh
my God, you have work comp excluded on your GL policy.
But here's the thing: be careful what can of worms you open, because I've done this a number of times. I've like kind of get into a little side industry that I haven't done before, and I'll make something an issue, and then I get in and I realize that I can't get it taken off myself, and I'm like, oh shit.
I see this with some consultants sometimes that like post on LinkedIn. They'll put things out there like, this exclusion's terrible, or like right now in the E&S market, right? Continuous and progressive damage, right? Of course, we all want it removed, but it's becoming so commonplace on every excess E&S policy I see that carriers don't want to pick up previous claims, right, from other people's coverages. So it's very tough to get some of these removed. Now, maybe you can work wonders or something, or you got some special wholesale broker you work with. But yeah, there's certain things in the E&S space, or like you said, just certain industries where it's like, yeah, you think you can get it removed, and then you're like, you get the AOR, then you come back and present, you didn't get it removed, and you're like, oh, let's just kind of not talk about some of those coverage gaps you had that weren't really gaps, but you can fake it. I mean, you could fake all this stuff and just put on a show for these clients. But I think the deeper question is, why do you feel like you have to fake this, right? If this stuff isn't second nature or isn't come naturally to you, no, and that's fine. But now that you know it, right? If you're listening to this, you're like, man, I don't really do that stuff. I hear from trainers and they say this, and the deeper question is, what's your motivation? Are you being motivated are you operating out of fear, on fear mode, or are you operating out of love or abundance or whatever you want to call it? And I think you got to make that decision, because if you're operating out of fear, but you're trying to put on a show, it's, people will see that kind of, you come across phony. And maybe you're listening to this and you disagree. You're like, man, this is sales. You got to have salesmanship. And I said, yeah, of course, there's some salesmanship and some ways to do things, but I think the number one principle should always, that you don't falter on, is, do what's best for the client, be transparent, be honest, right? You do those couple things, I think it'll serve you well. And if you do mess up, don't, the client asks like, hey, what happened? And maybe it is your fault. And this can be hard. Don't try to make up some lie, be real. Like, you know what? I dropped the ball on this particular renewal on this policy, man, we're aware of it. We've corrected it. Sorry. Like that's just what happened, John, right? If you're talking to your client here's the thing, man, they all know, everyone makes mistakes. Everyone running businesses, they're making mistakes with their clients. They're doing things and you don't want to be notorious, like making mistakes all the time, but just be real with people, be honest.
I guess my last question for the episode is how is your golf herpes at the moment? Is it has it inflamed more, or where is it at?
It's kind of subsided. It's it's not flaring.
Mine's all over. I mean, everywhere.
The itch is there. It's like today I was thinking, like, should I go and hit balls at lunch because I work from home? And I'm like, no, because I should probably hang out, with my son, my wife, or I don't have a lot of time. But no, I definitely made this. I was thinking to my husband, I got to play next week because I've not played since October. So it is, the itch is building.
Well, I had the opportunity to go play for free at a super nice country club today that I've never played at before, and I turned it down because I knew I needed to make some calls and get some shit done. I'm trying to be conscious, super conscious of when my golf herpes flared up real bad in spring of last year. I went so whole hog that I really honestly put myself behind the 8 ball. Revenue wise, if I'm being honest, and I just can't do that again. So I'm trying to do both and. I'm trying to I can get into it. I can practice every day. I can do whatever, but I have to keep the main thing. And I'm already going to the Zurich Classic on Friday. I've got tickets in the VIP tent. Shout out to Dominic for the hookup there. I'm going to see Rory McIlroy coming off the Masters win. I'm going to go see him hit it a country mile. Excited about that. And so I just didn't feel right also taking it off Wednesday to go play golf all day. Yep. So I'm trying to be what's the word? Not disciplined. I'm trying to be responsible.
Yeah, responsible. There you go. Good word. No, I think I went to the San Antonio what was that called? The Valero Open 2 weeks ago with a carrier.
Oh, you did? You went to the Valero.
I did. It was cool. I was there for 3-4 hours. My thing was, though, it's funny when I got invited, I was like, man, I'd rather, since I barely get to play golf, I wish you'd have invited me to play golf instead of having me go watch golf, but it's all good. I appreciated it. It was fun.
That would have been funny. You'd been like, no, I appreciate the invite, but
I'm going to go play my muni.
Can we just table that and you just take me to play golf later?
Yeah.
The old lefty won that tournament, Brian Harmon.
Brian, what a bulldog.
He's about the height of a bulldog.
Yeah.
5 foot nothing. All right. With that, let's get off of it before we lose everybody. So we have a podcast editor now, and I specifically asked him to edit out the episode from 2 to 3 weeks ago where we said we were giving the course away for free. We have since changed our minds. I have had multiple people ask about the free course. It is not It is not free. It was supposed to be taken out. So that hasn't gone over well.
Here's the reason, guys. We can't, because now we actually have an expense. So yes. One is our time is valuable, and 2 is now we have an editor to make the show better, hopefully, and more. And
he's not cheap.
He's not cheap, but he's good. And so the only way to fund that, we don't want to pay for it out of our own pockets. So we could either do crowdsourcing or just offer the course and make enough to cover our expenses, which is what we're basically doing. So
yep,
that's why.
So. By the way, if you want to sponsor the podcast, we get a few thousand downloads per episode. We are looking for it. We have a steady, consistent, diehard group of guys and gals that are producers. I mean, it's got to be the most. I mean, it's like shooting fish in a barrel. If you go listen to some of these other insurance podcasts, you got service reps, you got underwriters. You got it's a mixed bag. You got captive agents, you got, personal lines. We are diehard mid-market commercial insurance agents, a few on the benefit side, mostly P&C. So if that is your target market and you're looking for them, son, we got them corralled up for you. So,
that's a great point.
It's a niche audience, but if that is your bread and butter, then holler at your boy. Because we got them. All right. With that, I'll bid you adieu. Micah, appreciate it as always for the wisdom, and for you listeners out there, we appreciate you. We know you have a lot of things that you could be doing, and you take the time to listen to two idiots talk about insurance and sometimes golf and sometimes other random things. And so we appreciate it. And we appreciate your time. Link to the Max Revenue letter in the show notes. Link to the Producer Playbook, our step-by-step guide to building a book of business from scratch using cold outbound. Both are in the show notes. And with that, we'll bid you adieu. Adios.